between beauty and economics, between natural law and memory, desire and form, between the material and the digital or informational. The processes that ensued from the territories of prolific encounter she associated with viruses. In her viral aesthetics, Chadwick considered these processes as contingent on risk, not as damage per se, but as potential, cultivating the possibility of change. Chadwick's viral landscapes form an inspirational first step in developing a possible philosophy of mutability. In the late 80s, as she worked on her viral landscapes, the advent of AIDS encouraged artists and intellectuals to examine the idea of viral infection and analyze the metaphorical transference between the concept of the virus and other forms of social and cultural expressions of trauma. Hannah Chadwick explores the openness of the body and the relation between host and virus as a metaphor for the relation between individual and world. This is a work, it's called Mutamorphosis. This is a work that's actually reflecting on AIDS. It's a reflection on a research on the connection between daisies and HIV. That is, some plants contain chemicals that are able to prevent production of HIV in infected cells, and this is a research done by Lees and Daller. Viral landscapes consist of 5 large panoramic computer-generated color photographic images. Another artist, Mel Chin. Mel Chin once said, "The survival of my own ideas may not be as important as a condition I might create for others' ideas to be realized. Art can be a host, but art can also be a virus that inserts itself into a host." According to Chin, viruses insert themselves and replicate with the host. Not necessarily to kill the host, you see, he says, but replicate ideas or their own form, but they always slightly mutate, but not exact. I thought if I could transfer that to the world of ideas, we would have the methodology, be as it is. It might just help somebody to survive. A special group of plants, hyperaccumulators, were used to absorb heavy metals such as zinc and cadmium in their leaves and roots. The field was laid out as an X in a circle with a square frame, a metaphorical target as well as a functional division. When in 1991 the first plants were harvested, dried, ashed and analyzed, the metal received from the plants were at the level of commercial ore. These transformation processes of soil and plants, the mutable nature of materials, are still profoundly aesthetic to Chin. He considers the reduction process a sculptural concept, even when the material is invisible and the tools are biochemistry and agriculture. The project changed and expanded both science and sculptural field, and bore many more potentials than of art or science alone.
Life Lab is a new installation and durational performance that reflects ongoing BIOTEKNICA research at the intersection of art and science. Here, the traditional gallery setting serves multiple functions, exhibiting prototyped objects, video and digital print documentation, a live art performance site, and a tissue culture laboratory.
So BIOTEKNICA started as a media studies project where we were interested in investigating the slippage between how biotechnology was represented in the public sphere and maybe the actuality of biotech behind the scenes. So we started with the sort of corporate facade as a means of beginning. The content of BIOTEKNICA is focused around the teratoma. A teratoma is otherwise known as an endodermal sinus tumor or a dermatoid cyst. And what it is a form of cancer, but a very particular interesting form of cancer where the cells differentiate as they divide. So it's very similar to an embryo. In fact, a variety of scientists have been looking at the teratoma as a source for embryonic stem cells.
We've seen the project as a timely one, where technologically we are engaged in a critical period of susceptibility to agents and organ systems affected by these external agents. In other words, BIOTEKNICA and bioart in general are ripe contaminants, offering great potential for mutation in the early biotech era, particularly the early era of artists working with biotechnologies. Biotechnology is arguably the most significant technological development of our time. We see ourselves facing an alarming threshold where humanity, as we understand it today, will be irrevocably changed by the technological trajectories we choose for ourselves. Biotechnology, and specifically projected cloning technologies, are seen as a Pandora's box, paradoxically offering great humanitarian potential, particularly in the healthcare sector, yet simultaneously ensuring a societal leap into a vast and possibly devastating unknown. In the biotech century, Jeremy Rifkin states that the biotechnological revolution will affect each of us more directly, forcefully, and intimately than any other technological revolution in history.
I just want to say briefly that what we meant by that is that it was incredibly difficult for two non-specialists in an otherwise very academic and segregated and specialized environment like a university to negotiate the health and safety systems of codification, purchasing services, a variety of different elements. And so the real monstrosity of this lab was not the installation itself, but the 6 months of advanced negotiations and meetings and warnings and last minute up to the very day we wanted to open, threats that it may not be able to open to the public. This is some documentation of us working in the lab at Concordia University with a television film crew following us as well, which involved another series of problems. Would you like to finish with the last quote?
Sure. These cumulative experiences and experiments marked a significant shift in our collaborative art practice, away from the mere representation of mutation and towards an actual teratomatic interventionist methodology. BIOTEKNICA itself has been transformed into a teratogenic agent, where instead of analyzing biotechnology from an external position, it begins to infect, impact, and produce irrational affect in both scientific and artistic communities. BIOTEKNICA has become an unnameable entity, an organism itself, skirting the boundaries of art and science.